Hello, everybody. This is Umsoli Speaks. I have my stalkers. Yes, more stalkers. um, I'm going to be. This is my intro for my video.
I'm gone.
This is my intro for my video. This is like one of my favorite videos. Like I love it. I interviewed two men, Omar and Humza, and they have this website called Make Hijrah, and I said Make Hijrah, and I spilled all the tea. They told everything they could. It was awesome. It was a good conversation. I had babies stealing soda in the background, but I do want to mention a few minutes of the first one was the first part was kind of deleted a little bit because I accidentally forgot to push record and he started talking and I didn't want to interrupt. But alhamdulillah. But I think it was a good interview. Just sit back and relax and listen. Hopefully you benefit from it. We're out. Sali with Sali Speaks. Thanks. Did you guys check the channel out?
Briefly, very briefly. We've been over the past couple of weeks. We've been extremely busy, so it's been crazy here for at the moment because obviously we've got the MCO and all that kind of stuff going on, and plus we've got a load of interviews back to back. So
I'll check the channel out.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right.
We'll do, sure.
So, hello. Now we're on live now. So let me fix the gallery. Hello, everybody. This is Sali with Sali Speaks. And today we're here with two, I'm going to call you like Hijrah experts.
Ah, you hear that, Sheikh? Hijrah experts.
Hijrah experts. So you guys make sure you ask questions. First, we're going to get their background story to understand why they're so passionate about Hijrah and world travel. So who we're going to start with first?
You want to go ahead, Sheikh, Omar?
No, go ahead, bro. You can start.
He always does this to me, sister. Okay, I'll go. Okay.
Yeah.
If I go on for too much, just let me know. So you want to know how I first got interested in Hijrah, or you want to go back further?
Yeah, were you born Muslim or were you reverted to Islam? Like, how was it?
Okay. Yeah, I became Muslim when I was 19, 20. 51 now, alhamdulillah. I was born in the UK, southeast London, a place called Croydon, and a place called Surrey. I actually took my Shahada in a Brixton Masjid or Brixton Mosque. It's a place where it's famous. It became quite famous because that's where Mike Tyson visited when he came to fight British world champion Frank Bruno. And obviously, I think a few other celebrities have been there as well. So I took my shahada there. Just lived an ordinary life. I was fortunate enough to be able to travel. But in the early days, before I became Muslim, it was more or less to France, Portugal, Spain. I think we didn't actually cross the border across the equator into Africa until I visited Ghana. And then later on, when I became Muslim, I had the honor of traveling to Sudan, where I met Hassan Tarabi. And actually, the thought of Hijrah wasn't an issue. I didn't have any concept, any idea. I just knew to myself that, you know, when I want to have children, etc., I wanted my children to be brought up in a better environment. So that initial spark was there, but for me to actually pick up and make Hijrah wasn't really an initial thought. And funny enough, it came. I was reading the Quran one day, and I came across the ayats in the Quran. I believe it's Surah Al-Ma'idah, verses 97 to 100. I think it's Surah Al-Ma'idah. My memory is not too good, but basically, it's the angels are having a discussion with somebody in the grave, and the angels ask the person in the grave, like, "Why are you here?" And the person replies, "We were weak and oppressed in the land." And then the angels replied to the person, wasn't Allah's land vast? And then after that, Allah interjects into the conversation, and he goes on to describe his view of those people that are able to make hijrah but don't. So when I read that ayat or those ayats, I was kind of like, wow, like how many times have I read this ayat and just basically skimmed over it? But on this particular occasion, it kind of hit home. And then I've done a little bit of research on whether it was seen as obligatory or recommended, and reasons why, and all this kind of stuff. But one thing that jumped out at me straight away is that I would say out of the ayats that I looked at pertaining to Hijrah, Allah mentions his cause. Those who made Hijrah in his cause. Those who made Hijrah in his cause. So it was that point on that I decided that was it, made up my mind, I got to leave. Unfortunately, you know, I put the same premise to my family, both present family and ex-families, and my children. They weren't too happy with the idea, so I ended up leaving the UK by myself. My first destination was Egypt. I left the UK with approximately about £3,000 and a Bismillah. That was it. So that's really it. That's how the journey. Because I'm obviously, when I made Hijrah, that was it for me. I thought, okay, I'm gonna go to Egypt. I had a dream that I would study for the rest of my life, and I'm gonna be buried in Egypt, etc., etc., etc. That was my fantasy at the time, and I believed that that was going to be the end of my story, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, that's how my journey into Hijrah and my zeal of Hijrah itself as a topic began. It began by reading those ayats. It began by doing research. It began by speaking to those who know, and it actually also began by actually taking the steps of being a muhajir. So, alhamdulillah, so that's me.
So no regrets?
Absolutely none. I mean, are there certain things that I would have done differently? Yes. But in hindsight, when you look back at it, I needed to go through those processes to not be bitten twice, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I know that certain decisions I made my life a little bit more difficult, but now I'm a wiser person. So would I actually change anything? No. But because I've actually, from those difficult times and from those difficult times, I've come out wiser, 100%.
Would you ever go back to London? Like, you ever see yourself like settling back down in London? Like,
never, ever, 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 never, inshallah, never, ever, 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 never.
I think I get you. It's like me living in Philly. Like, once you're out of Philly, you don't want to go. I don't care who's out of Philly. You don't want to go back.
I mean, it's like it's like basically, you know, it's like this. It's like seeing that looking over the fence and seeing that the grass is greener, and then once you actually get there, you actually realize, you know what, it is greener. Why would I go back? You know, I mean, to be honest with you, when finances have been a bit low, I have been back to England to make money and to return back to my family. So for me, England is a cash cow. Like I'm a tradesman. I'm a 30-year tradesman. So for me to go back to the UK and get a job, it's quite easy for me to do so. And plus, I can turn my hand to most things. It's my country. I know the lay of the land. So I would pop back there, and I would make money. And as soon as I was quite disciplined, alhamdulillah. I would have a target of how much I needed, but I would also have a target of how long I was going to stay. So it was either the target or the time that I was going to stay, whichever came first, and leave. That's it. That's basically it.
Okay. I think that was an amazing story. Now,
Thank you.
okay, Omar, can we hear yours? Like,
Yeah, sure.
Muslim from.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Mine is a little different. I became Muslim when I was 18 years old, and I got married when I was about
Where you from?
21. I'm from Milwaukee. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
So, sorry, I'm moving around because it's hot up in here. But anyway, so basically, after I got married, I always had the desire to, when I first became Muslim, to go and learn Arabic, especially after I became Muslim in Ramadan. So, listening to going to Taraweeh and not being able to understand anything, it just wasn't, that didn't work for me, and then going to Juma and then people quoting Quranic verses and hadith and etc. And I'm not understanding anything. So I just that didn't go over well with me. So I decided early on that I wanted to go at least learn Arabic, learn some Arabic and learn how to recite Quran at least. So once we had our second child, no, our third child, we decided we were able to get up the resources to go to Egypt. So we traveled to Egypt, and we went to a center called Fajr Center. And that was mainly where the foreigners went to study Arabic. It was just a couple of centers there at that time. Once we got there and we started to live there, we felt like it didn't make sense to go back. It didn't make sense to go back to the States. I mean, Philly's a different beast, but Milwaukee is like spread out. Muslims are spread out. They're sprinkled all over in different places. The masjid is not close. So you mix in with a lot of different situations. And then me growing up there, I knew I didn't want my children to grow up there. And a lot of my friends, their children became casualties of that environment, like, daughters coming home pregnant, sons getting involved in the streets. I had one friend that one of his sons was in a gang and the other one's in a rival gang and they fighting each other. You know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff. So I said, I can't deal with that kind of stuff. I'm not built. I don't know what I do, So for me, it was more, I was more motivated by that, putting them in an Islamic environment, raising them in an Islamic environment, so they can see Islam, not just talk it, but see it. And you'll be surprised, like things like marriage, not, staying, not intermixing and not having girlfriends and them remaining virgins. Like my oldest son, he's 22. He was a virgin, and it wasn't strange to him to be a virgin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get it.
So and so he got married. He recently got married in Egypt to another American girl. And but the thing is that when you raise your children in that environment, it's just you get a totally different child. Like you kind of break that cycle. You break that, we got some effects of slavery with us. A lot of African Americans, we do. And you kind of break that when you raise them in a different environment. I'm not just saying Egypt. That could be Senegal. That could be Gambia. That can be
everybody's starting place.
Yeah. Just a place where the culture is Islamic. The way that people move is Islamic, even though sometimes they don't understand Islam. How can I say, it's more cultural than it is like textual. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's pretty much my story. And after that, it was no turning back. Like, so we moved from Egypt, we traveled to different places, and then finally we settled in Malaysia, where we are now.
And both of you guys are in Malaysia.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. I've seen a couple of your videos on your journey to Malaysia. I thought it was quite interesting. I was looking at the Egyptian videos when you were talking about New Cairo, and you were mentioning, about Al Rehab and stuff like that. And then you mentioned Malaysia, and then the next video was about Malaysia, and I thought it was quite interesting. What brought you guys from Egypt to Malaysia?
Um, hmm. We would still be in Egypt now if it wasn't because of whether you want to call it the uprising, the revolution, the coup d'etat, whatever. It's got so many different names.
Mhm.
I think that was the point where we said, you know what, it's time to roll now. Yeah. There were things happening to people around me or around us. People are getting picked up. People are being you'd find out that a brother he's gone missing for 10 days and he's got a family to support. So his family never knew where he was for a number of days. And the next minute they would get a phone call, their brother's back in the States, because they just picked him up and held him and all that kind of stuff. So there was some crazy stuff going on. I think Omar might agree with me here, but I think if we were both single men, we could have rolled it out. We could have just done to do and just kept our heads down. But we're both family men. And it was, when you know that you can either you or your family could get picked up at any moment, or there could be a knock at the door. It's like, you know what, Egypt, we love you. We will always love you. But at the moment, you ain't the place for us right about now. So, we start the first decision was to go to Tanzania. My family, my wife is from Tanzania, and we had a look, and we fell in love with the place. It's like, because there's people that look like us who are practicing the deen. It's like, obviously Egyptian, African, etc. But when you have a nation of people, or a country, or not country, an island of people, or two islands of people, because we looked at Zanzibar and Pemba. Pemba, not a lot of people have heard of Pemba, but Pemba is a very, very small island next door to Zanzibar. And both islands of like 99.9% Muslim. Obviously, they were colonized by the Omanis, but since then they're intermixed. So you have a mixture of pure Omani mixed with natives, and they're all Muslim. So I think that was the pull to Zanzibar at the time. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. If we've got time, we can go into some stories that happened in Zanzibar and Pemba. But we waved goodbye to Pemba and Zanzibar. I know I did, and I think the Sheikh did as well, with a heavy heart. Because it's somewhere that somebody that loves their people and loves their own people. Like we're all African originally. So we're African and we're Muslim originally. And to be able to have the opportunity to live somewhere where you're surrounded by African and they're Muslim, well, that's the jackpot, But unfortunately, certain circumstances that happened, I was unable to stay. So we were Jamaat. Omar and I and our families, we see ourselves as a Jamaat. So where one goes, the other follows. We discuss it. We discuss it. We have Shura meetings. We disagree, but we keep at it until we agree and we make a decision and we go with it.
That's
so so obviously, and then we ended up in Malaysia. Well, Omar ended up in Malaysia. I was back in the UK, trying to get back into Tanzania, but that wasn't going to be working out. So Omar done some fact-finding trips to Malaysia. So I don't know whether Omar wants to tell us about his fact-finding trips and the discussions we had, the Shura meetings that we had, how we ended up here.
Yeah, if you want to hear it.
No, we're listen. I want you guys to tell
As
me.
you can see, Omar's the more talkative one.
Right.
It's always like that.
Well,
No, but you have to understand that this is
No,
a different kind of platform. I want people to tell their story. I don't care what your story is. I mean, if you talk to some old others, some shirky McShirk, you keep that to yourself. But as long as y'all telling your
nah, man.
truth, as long as y'all telling your truth and you telling your story, I'm open. Let's listen.
Yeah, the Malaysia trip. Uh, when was that, man? Let me try to figure out.
2006, 2000, early 2016, or even 2000, yeah, mid 2016,
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's interesting
I think.
because
Mm,
because I was going back and forth to Tanzania from Egypt,
hmm hmm
and then you came to Egypt, and I forgot. I can't remember the reason why you came. But
Mm.
then on your way back to Tanzania,
hmm
that's when you had your problems there, and then you ended up going back to the UK,
That's
right?
correct. Yeah.
All right.
hmm
So then a friend of mine, another friend of mine, was going to Malaysia. He said, "Look, you want to come to Malaysia? Check it out." I said, "Yeah, why not?" Now, bear in mind that we talked about Malaysia before because we
hmm
had we had other countries that we were looking at, and Hamza was like, "Nah, it's too. That's Mushrikeen or whatever." He didn't know.
Yeah.
He confused
Let me
Malaysia
just
with
interject there real
Thailand or
quick.
something.
Yeah,
Go
let
ahead.
me just quickly interject. Yeah, basically, Omar said to me, "You want to come check out Malaysia?" And I went, "Malaysia, nah, bro. Like, they're a bunch of idol worshippers. The Muslims intermarry with them. This is what I thought. This is what I thought about Malaysia. Like that, nah, nah, bro. Like, I'm gonna go there and have my family around my neighbor, who's the husband's a mushrik and the wife is a Muslim. Like, nah, bro. I mean, that was my thought. That was
Yeah.
how I saw this side.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
this side of the world. Yeah, but
Yeah, I
alhamdulillah, I
knew
was
it.
pleasantly wrong.
Yeah,
Mm,
I knew it wasn't like that. But because you have other countries around here, Thailand, and you have
mm,
Indonesia, you have other places. Thailand mainly is. I wouldn't say it's like that though. That's a kind of exaggeration. But anyway, so I took that trip with a friend of mine, and I was amazed by Malaysia. I mean, Malaysia is like it's very advanced.
Okay.
It's very clean. It's very orderly. Because I guess you would
But
have
what
to live
about
in
the
Egypt
Arabic
for a while.
language though? What about the Arabic language? Because you guys originally left to learn
Right, right,
how to
right, right,
studies.
right. It changes over time because I was in Egypt for what? I was in Egypt for like 18 years. So
Mm.
over time, it becomes like uh, it's not that you leave off studying or anything like that, but it becomes more like a place where you can call home, where
mm,
you can settle, where you
Yeah.
can live, and you don't leave off your studies, especially for your children and stuff. You try to put them in different programs and things there. But and then also we have a business. We have businesses that we run online. So you need the infrastructure behind it, in order to properly run it. So Malaysia had all those things. And then also it has the Arabic language. I mean, you could get that. But primarily you would probably get Quran and just Islamic manners and these type of things. Like if you put your children in some type of program, they would get some Arabic as well. But in Malaysia, they do teach in their language, and
Mm.
they don't have no problem with that, and they don't care if you like it or not. But
Alhamdulillah.
so I mean, it depends on the person's what their goals are. You know,
So your goals changed over
if
time.
it, huh?
So your goals changed. They went from learning Arabia to just being in a Muslim country.
Yeah, it became living. It
hmm
Yeah.
became a living thing, and being in an environment. See, the thing is that you don't want to say something to your children, for example, because now we're talking as like families. Like some
Mhm.
people can't relate because they're individuals. You know what I mean? But when you're talking as a family, it's like you want to say to your child, put it like this: you want to say it's time to pray, and then hear the band outside telling everybody it's time to pray.
Time to
It's
pray.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's
Mm,
reinforcement. You know what I mean? Like you wanna say you wanna tell your daughter, for example, to put her scarf on when she goes outside, and then when she goes outside, she sees other girls like that. You know what I mean? And it's a normal thing, not something that she's looked at as strange. And I know Philly is a lot different, but
Yeah.
still, you know what I mean? But still, like, and I mention that because the states are different. Because when you come from the states, the different states are different. You know what I mean? So Islam has more of
Country.
an influence in certain states than other places. But when you go to a Muslim country, it's totally different. That's what I'm trying to say. So
Well,
when it's about living, it kind of changes things. And then also now you're connected. Like you could take an Arabic class online. You could do things. You know what I mean? You could still get to what you want, especially if you have a little foundation. If you have some foundation, you can still continue on your studies.
yeah. So like we get the Muslims, the Arab Muslims that come over here for the dunya, basically. And you know, the ones that come over and are kind of ashamed of being Muslim, and you know, look at, you know, the hijabis like, oh, what's wrong with her? Why is she, you know, pressing herself? And so we get a different view of Arabs. So it's kind of hard, you know. And we get the ones that are kind of a little bit racist on a low, but not on a low. And so, but we're currently in North Carolina right now. So it's like I experienced, you know, the difference in between being from Philly and being in this Muslim bubble and it being popped with a pen, and then being in Niqabi and down south and not understanding why is this weird. Because like in
Right.
Philadelphia, I got corporate jobs with my niqab on, and then in North Carolina is like everybody's afraid of me a little bit.
I
So
think
Yeah.
I think the key there. I think you said the magic word there. The key there is the bubble, because it's this. I mean, obviously, in size, I can't compare the UK to the US, but the bubble that you mentioned, that's what it is. Because you know, especially when I started talking about, you know, the idea of hijrah and like moving to the land of the Muslims, and like, you are bursting a bubble, because you know what, I can wear I can grow my beard, I can wear my thobe, I can walk the streets like this. My job allows me to pray when I need to go and pray, and so people do find themselves in that bubble until, like you said, that bubble bursts. So now what happens when that bubble bursts? They now have to, like, and that bubble can burst for any reason. Like the brother was saying earlier about his experience, the reason why he wanted to move his family out is because he didn't want his sons joining gangs. He didn't want to have his daughter come home pregnant. All these type of things. That's when the bubble bursts. Because if you think about it, when your child is at school age, the amount of time that you have with your child is in single figures now, because they're out the door at 6:30, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and you don't see them again until 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That
yeah,
whole time they've been influenced outside of your influence.
yeah,
So they're not going to come home. They're not going to come home and tell you, "Well, Dad, guess what happened today?" They're not going to tell you certain things. You're going to assume that everything is all right until one day that bubble bursts. So
exactly.
now you're trying to pick up the pieces and put it back together, yeah. And at the same time, I've got to get my kids out of here. So you're trying to, but by then I wouldn't say it's too late, but you've made the job harder. So I think what you mentioned there is that everybody says it, or it comes when you're discussing about the possibility of making hijrah. Some people find it difficult because the bubble that they're in is okay for them right about now. They can't see anything wrong with it. Like, I'm all right here, bro. Right. And then that bubble bursts, and now they've got two struggles. They've got a struggle of keeping their family together, and they've got a struggle, well, okay, well, maybe Omar and Humza were right. I do need to go. But now I've got to fix my family first and then leave. So you've
I
got
think
two
in
battles.
Philly, I think in Philly the issue is like Omar was saying in reference to his friends and gangs, kids and gangs and stuff. And Philly is like a you're Muslim to the point that you're comfortable. You're Muslim to the point that people see you sin openly. Brother going through some, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. So you start seeing more people um, losing their Islam or using the Islam in different ways, and it becomes to a point of, a whole bunch of drug dealers. You think they not Muslim?
No.
They're going to Jum'ah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I've heard some stories, and I was like, wow.
Oh, they true. I don't know what story you heard, but it's probably true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But it's very hard. A lot of Muslims who are kind of successful in raising their children, they keep them in the house. They homeschool them. And then when the kids get outside, it's like, oh my God, it's sparkly, it's shiny, and this, that, and the other. So you try to protect your kids as long as you can. And then when they're out in the world, everything is so shiny, and then you can lose them in that way. So I feel like the importance of people making hijrah is not talked about enough, because people want to stay in the bubble. They want to stay in their comfort zone, but the comfort zone may not be the best.
Yes, that's exactly it, sister.
Have you guys ever been to Monafia? Because I know a lot of people have questions about Monafia, like where the sheikh is.
Sherrer, yeah, I've been there. I went to Monafia. It's actually a little village there.
Yeah.
But I went there when before he was popular. This was years ago, before Sheikh Hassan was popular. I would say that. Nah, let me be quiet.
Okay. So
I'll be quiet.
I respect people's situation, because you don't want to say nothing that's going to, So moving on.
No. Well, let me say this. I say this because I'm not saying nothing about the Sheikh, but I say I'm talking about the environment.
Oh, no, it's
the
right.
environment. That it all depends. If a person feel that they can rough it out like that, then go for it. If you are honest, if you're honest with yourself and you feel you can rough it, then rough it. But if you know for a fact you can't deal with that type of life, like a village type of life, then and then plus I would recommend, if you have listeners that want to go there, my recommendation is to start in the Arabic centers. Start there first, because first of all, the Sheikh speaks a high level of Arabic that it's very difficult to understand if you don't have anything. I heard that he has a mahad there now. Back then he didn't, but now they have something that can bring you up to speed. But I still would recommend to start off in Alexandria or in Cairo, and get some basics of Arabic, and then go visit there and see, take your if you have a family. If you're single, it's different too, but it's still not the type of life, if you're coming from the States or the UK, that you may be used to.
Yeah, my husband had suggested it a couple times, and I was like, huh? So I wasn't ready. I already I was like, yeah, I'm not living that life. So what we came up with a compromise. I'm like, if we ever get over there, you can spend the weekends, do what you got to do, come back to Cairo, So
but there are some brothers that if your husband needs to actually talk to people that have been there, that have lived there, then there are some brothers that I can point them to, because there's also the city part.
Yeah.
Because you got the city part of Monofia, and then you have where the Sheikh lives, or at least last I heard he lived, which is like more like a farm area or a village.
Yeah.
So you can stay outside. You can stay outside of there, and then go inside to go to the Sheikh's lectures or what have you, and then go back out. To do that as well.
I think he's at a point in his Arabic that he can handle things, because he's taught himself. I'm going to say this to the point as well, because he's taught himself Fusa, and he's taught himself Amir, and he's fluent, and he did that here.
Right.
So people also, is about the commitment, because a lot of people come back from Saudi, come back from Egypt, come back from wherever, and don't know a lick of Arabic. They know how to get around maybe a little bit, but then what do you say for those? What do you say for people who want to go in there with the best of intentions to go learn Arabic, And because you probably met a couple people who, just lived over there and just kind of not benefited. How can you prepare the next generation that are coming over? What advice would you give them?
I mean,
What advice?
I
Oh,
was
go
one
ahead.
of those. Yeah, sorry, Sheikh. Yeah, I was one of
No,
those
go ahead, bro.
people who. Yeah, I was one of those people who. That was it. Like I had my bag, my kit bag, and a couple of quid in the bank, and that was what I was going to do. I was going to learn my Arabic. I was going to go into Azhar, and and I planned that I would be a student for the rest of my life. Yeah, and then obviously the money ran out. So I ended up having to get a job, yeah. And I had tried to get back into the schools, whether it be part time, and I just found that for me personally, to study Arabic or a language and to work as well, because I had a young family as well at the time, I just couldn't. I
Okay,
couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So, I mean, what I would suggest to people is have enough money. Have enough money to say, okay, I've got a year's worth of money here, so I can bury my head in the books and do my thing. After you've got the language now, or after you've got to a certain point in language, and you can communicate just enough, then if you want to go and go along an entrepreneurial path or get some type of job where it's funding your studies, that's great. But I think in the beginning, I think you need to be able to put aside a means of living, a bunch of money basically, to take you through your expenses until you get to the point where, okay, I can now go out into the big wide world and find an income or create an income for myself and at the same time study, or yeah, I will find a way basically.
Mhm.
But to go there to believe that you're gonna, like a lot of people do, you're gonna teach English and you're gonna study.
it's going to be
Very
hard.
few people. I mean, it's been done. And I take my hat off to those people. It's been done, but those numbers are few and far between. It's
Mm.
always best to say, I'm going to put myself down for a year. I've got a year's worth of money, and my rent and my expenses are covered, and I'm going to learn Arabic for a year. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week for a year. I've seen people, while I was there, start at nothing and come out quite fluent within a year because it's intense. It's intense. So it can work. I commend your husband as well, because I've only known one other person he was in England and he taught himself Arabic from England. So
Yeah,
people like your husband, I seriously, my hat off to him, really.
alhamdulillah. No,
Alhamdulillah.
yeah, alhamdulillah. Any advice to from you, Omar?
Yeah, if you want to study Arabic, or if you want to study uh, Islamic sciences or anything there outside of your country, number one is limit your interaction with Americans. That's number one. And the reason for that is because uh,
That's gonna be hard.
it's
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a bit
it's
harder.
that's the
But I'm,
yeah,
but I'm,
bro.
but
But
I'm
I'm
saying
telling you,
is it's hard because, like, say I know people in Saudi, and they said that the Saudian people they could say to themselves, Egyptian people say to themselves, and not a lot of.
right? Okay, let me address that. When you're talking about, if you're talking about, let's be more specific then. If you're
Mhm.
talking about Egypt, if you're talking about Egypt and specifically, if you're going to Egypt to study, then stay away from, don't stay away from, but yeah, reduce your interaction with other Americans as much as you can. Don't, it doesn't mean you're antisocial or you, when you see them coming, you turn the other way. It doesn't mean that. It just means limit that interaction as much as you can. Why? Because there's a bunch of different nationalities there that are trying to learn Arabic as well. So if you mix with those people, you're forced to use what you learn. You can't
Mhm.
just flip back into English. You have to try to use your words and try to interact and try to understand and etc. So that's just something I learned in my journey. And I would recommend that to other people that are to do the same thing. Another thing too is that a lot of us, not all of us, you have some studious people, and then you have people that's, I don't know why they, I don't know what they're doing, like they're not, some people are not serious, so rather than studying,
I
that
think it's a
they
dream.
out at the what you call it, the juice bars and at the restaurants, and they just kicking it, and that's it. So that's a reality. So if you could find those studious Americans that like test each other and go over things with one another, that's good. But I would recommend getting yourself a Russian guy or a French guy or some guy that can't speak English at all, and then go and do that same thing with them, and immerse yourself in that. And one last point with that, there's a brother, and he's probably one of the most knowledgeable uh, English people I know. And I say English, I'm talking about from the UK and Americans. Like, and he never went to a center, and he learned Arabic from the Arab students that would come there, the Algerians.
Mhm.
And he learned Arabic. He went over the books and stuff with them. And then also he would start to go to the scholars there and sit in their classes. And then doing that, along with that, he's working. He's in the schools teaching. So honestly, I don't know a person, like if you ask him about a subject, he can tell you a little bit about different subjects. I mean, he's
Everything.
mashallah, like he's clued up. You know what I'm saying? He's not somebody that's just wasted their time. But then at the same time, I know brothers that have been there 20 years plus and can hardly put together a sentence. And again, those brothers, it's nothing wrong with that, because sometimes brothers just go there to escape um, the states. They had problems in the states, or I don't mean like criminal stuff, because some brothers have that as well. But I'm saying they left the states because the environment wasn't good for them, and they ended up in Egypt, and they just stayed there. So they're just happy being in an Islamic environment and praying in the masjid and that type of thing.
And if that's sufficient for them, then alhamdulillah, like maybe Allah is
Right.
saving them from that. And maybe if they won't be that person that is meant to be brought to that level. And
No, yeah.
but when people come back and they're like, when I, inshallah, if I ever get the opportunity to go over, I want to make sure that I can try my best and do everything. I just don't want to be all talk. So when I commit myself and I say I'm going to do something, like the brother asked me how long I've been doing this YouTube channel for, and I told him about a month, and I told myself this is what I want to do. I want to make sure that this is a passive source of income, or for me and my husband has his YouTube channel. We want to make sure that we're doing things so that we can focus on our studies, and that we can be successful in our businesses. Um, so when people don't, I think people don't think past what they think they can do. So like,
Yeah.
so if you think that you're only capable of doing this, then that's all you're going to be capable of. But people don't believe in their own dreams, and like we live in the time and days of technology, and all you got to do is quick Google search and figure out a way to get a passive income. Figure out, what do I need to start this business so that I can make sure that I'm sustainable in a particular country so that I can focus on my studies. No one wants to search, and everybody wants to complain. That's what I talk about.
No. Yeah. They
So
don't want to take the rough with the smooth. Yeah, I hear you.
yes, nobody speaks London, so you had to speak English, okay?
Nobody speaks London.
I'm saying, don't be using no slang up in here. Oh gosh. So alhamdulillah.
keep keep doing what you're doing though. That's
No.
if I could offer some
Persistence is the
advice without
key.
being asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, be persistent, and don't give up, even if it seems like it's difficult. You
No.
have to just keep going. Just
The difficult things are the most fun things to do. Like,
That's a good attitude to have. Alhamdulillah.
leaving to another country to inshallah, if your intentions are right, feasibility, or to leave for Allah and trying to better yourself, better your religion, better your overall situation is something to attest for. So if you even had the thought of making hijrah, I feel like somebody should be proud of that. You know, that's something to say about yourself. You know, you had that thought, Hamza, you had that thought to leave. You know, you went against everything. You know, first you were 19, you became Muslim. You went against everything that made you you, and you said, no, I want to be a different person. I want to be better. I want to be Muslim. Then you were like, oh, you know what? I'm out of here. Y'all coming with me? All right. You're not, you chilling? All right. I'm leaving anyway. So you made these decisions within yourself and, you know, to do better, to be better. And
No, of course.
got to rock out with what they're doing.
No.
So,
And the thing is this, I think just to add to your point, and this goes for everybody, not just myself, it's like, because my children said to me, my children were quite harsh actually. They said to me that I've abandoned them because I was willing to leave them to go to, they wasn't going to come to Egypt and go on holiday. Do you know what I'm saying? So, but there comes a point where it's, okay, they're your children and you have to be there for them. I know it might be difficult for mothers hearing this, but there's a point where you have to say, I'm not actually abandoning you. I'm just trying to fix myself. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be the father I am to you if I just allowed everything around me to destroy me just because you need me around. You know what I mean? It's like, there's a point you have to take out for your own spiritual self-development. You have to be able to say, you know what? Yes, I'm a mom. Yes, I'm a dad. But I still need time for myself to develop. Or else what good am I?
yeah, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of sisters don't understand the rights of a father over his children. And if you decide, okay, I don't want to be with you because you're making a decision that I'm not ready for, maybe that should have been a conversation y'all should have had. We'll give my kids. Like, so
yeah,
they weren't kids though.
but they was grown.
My kids.
That's what. Yeah, your children grown.
Yeah. I started having children at 16. Like, so.
Oh, no, you was doing the thing.
Yeah. So I wasn't always Muslim, sister.
Sorry about that.
So, you know, when I was leaving, I think my son was in their, my sons and my two daughters were like in their 20s, late 20s as well.
Grown behind people. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but they love their pops. They love their pops, and I love them too. You know what I'm saying? And they were devastated. They were like, "You're actually going to leave us, Dad?" I'm not like, "Well, come with me." And you know, unfortunately, you know, they were victims of the society, and it wasn't destined for them to continue practicing their religion. So, you know, they went their way, but alhamdulillah, I managed to keep up my deen. And so we parted in what we had in common religiously, but they were still my kids and I was still pops to them. So when I said, look, I'm out, they were like, you're abandoning us. Like, and I was like, well, I'm not actually, you know what I mean? I'm you know, you're going your way, I'm going my way. My way is to continue my religion. Obviously, your way is not to continue your religion. So what, I'm going to be here and allow the society to suck me in like it has you? No, I'm out. Peace.
Well, I think
if you change your mind, you're welcome to come along.
I think we had to clarify that too, because your story made you look like a deadbeat dad a little bit on the low, but we clarified it, and it was
no. Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, I had at the time I had a 4-year-old daughter. Yeah. So, but the thing was there. The thing was the opportunity was given to the mother. And I'm saying, listen, I'm making hijrah fi sabilillah. I'm making hijrah to save my soul. Yeah. Ahlan wa sahlan. You're welcome. Yeah.
And now you invited her and she didn't come with you. And that's the thing about it is
that's not down to me. That's between her and her Lord. You know what I mean? Like, because I mean, Allah tells us in the Quran that our children, our wives, and the wealth that we acquire, they're a test. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, when it comes to the salvation of my soul, that's between me and my Lord. I will do whatever I can Because Allah also says, save yourself and your family from the hellfire. Yeah. So I'm no good if I'm not spiritually spiritually linked to my Lord. What family am I fit enough to look after? What family am I good enough to protect if I'm not spiritually inclined to my Lord? So I believe me making Hijrah is going to continue my relationship with my Lord. And trust me, my kids and my wife, it's the best thing that you to do too. Let's go. They were like, nah, I ain't on that. I said, all right, I'll read as pet. Later, I'm out. Okay. It was as simple as that, sister. Like, there was no, should I, shouldn't I? Am I really? There was no doubt. There was no doubt. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to lose you. I'm not going to see you as much. I don't see my grandchildren. All that, or went through all that emotion. I remember, because for the first couple of weeks that I was in Egypt, I was staying on a brother's floor until I got my apartment. Got my apartment, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah, when the keys were actually given to me, I walked into my apartment, shut the door, sat at my dining table, and burst out crying. Because I've left the women who bore my children, I've left them in England, and even though we're not together, I still love them for the mere fact that they have my children, regardless of what's happened. I love them because you gave me children. I also left my children. I left my 4-year-old daughter, yeah, and I left my other children. I left my mum. I left my dad. I left nine at the time, 10 siblings younger than me, and it was just me in Egypt. And I burst out crying. After I'd wiped the tears and I straightened myself up, right, I'm cool, got it out of my system. Let's do it. What are we up to? What are we doing? That's it.
No, we need to cry sometimes, and it's okay. I read a quote somewhere, it was a meme on Facebook, and it says, it's okay to be sad after you make a good decision.
No.
So no. You gotta deal with that emotion, and I feel like I'm like a men's advocate because I believe that men are the prize. Men are the people, they're the people that we gotta to care for as women, and I am an advocate for men because I have me and my husband have a blended family, and together we have 7 boys and 2 girls, and I am raising men that are worthy of being prizes, and I truly believe that, and I want the women around me. So I'm not friends with sisters that I wouldn't marry my kids off to, because I need to make sure that, if I see something, okay, so we got to make sure that we're aware of who we being friends with and everything. So it's like to bring that back to the point is we're not aware of the men and their family, of their feelings, of how things are going for them necessarily. No. And it's not right. And it calls for divorce. It calls for people abandoning children. It's all the baby mom issues, it's step parent issues, it's a whole bunch of stuff. And all we got to do is understand that if we as women know our place and they know their place, then everything is copacetic. I think it's just a simple answer.
That's nice.
It's nice, right? It's nice.
It's a nice theory. Like that's a nice theory, sis. Yeah, that's a nice theory.
Can be, as long as we believe in them, theories can actually be reality. So we start talking about it more and stop talking about the negative, and have women understand that, you guys are the prize. So we got to kind of work for you, and we got to then everything kind of works around it. When we realize that the family unit is the marriage is what hold the family together, then everything else it kind of rolls around it, and then
it does.
So
you're right, sister. It does.
So you married a woman from where again, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, Tanzania.
I know a lot of brothers are like they're against marrying African American women. What are you guys' theories on that? Because I know a lot of we got a lot of issues with that. I ain't married no Philly sister.
Oh.
Yeah, that's juicy. I'm glad to
get into it.
Brother, what do you do that for?
What? Prince
Pass it
brother
off.
preach.
Yeah, right.
Why you do
Yeah.
that?
Let him speak, and I'm gonna come
Yeah.
back. What?
All right. That's an interesting one. Yeah. I used to think my theory was, first of all, my wife here is African American, just to be clear on that. But I had a theory a few years ago that I believe that African Americans should marry outside of both men and women. And the reason for that is because of the damage that we had. You know, um, it's kind of like I don't know. I see. I can't speak for everybody. I can go back to my city and I can say that a lot of African American women didn't have respect for African American men. They kind of like hurt, if you want to say that. And then the men didn't have the respect that they should have for the women. And by the way, Milwaukee was the was or still is the lead. It led the nation in teen pregnancies. Like you have nurseries in the high schools. This was back in. It's probably common now, but back then it was something strange. So we didn't have any respect for uh, our women like we should. So my theory was we should marry outside, both African Americans, women and men, and that would be to I would say other Africans. That way, she can learn, like for her, she can marry into a family, a man that has a family and a mother and a father and a grandmother and this, that, and the other on down the line. And what do you call that? Extended family. She can marry into that and see how that thing goes. And likewise, a man can do the same thing. But that's changed.
It's changed.
That
Like
theory.
everybody should just be what they
What
want.
your theory has changed, bro?
My theory's changed.
Oh,
Yeah, it's changed.
wait,
I mean,
so
that was.
you didn't tell Humza. You didn't clue him.
It's changed now.
I'm not gonna drop him in it. I'm not. It's my homie. I'm not gonna drop him in it.
Hold on. No, it's changed, bro. Like I think that like, because I talked to another brother, a close friend of mine. He was saying that he's married to his wife and he's not going to divorce. He don't believe in divorce. Like he's not divorcing. And he said people call him on that and think it's strange and weird, but he's like, look, the damage that's been done to us as a people, like you have to give them a pass on a lot of things. Like you have to try to make that thing work. And then another thing too is like it's unfair for the children. And you see that, like, come on, like we know what's going on out here, with all these, like you said, the sister says she has a blended family. And it's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying,
I have a
you'll find
on a different level though. Like my husband was, he's white and he's Irish American, so he's like, so he decided that he wanted to marry women out of his race. So he got jungle fever and he married a Sunni.
Jungle fever.
okay.
Oh my god, that movie, man.
He married a woman and he married somebody from Trinidad Tobago, and they never work out until he married me. So alhamdulillah, like I'm just saying is, but we both I think it's just you try it until it fits, and I came from my background. I had a mother and a father in the household, and my father was well established, so it's not like I and I think it's just finding a match, because I was married before and neither one of the people that I were married to had a mother and father household. And it's kind of hard to find that situation. So I found it within my husband, and he had his father in his life and his mother in his life. And it kind of worked out that way because I had a strong foundation. And he had.
I think, yeah. I mean, like, I'm playing with my homie, but I kind of understand to the point where Like he's using the example of African Americans because that's his life.
I know. Wait, what are you? I'm sorry. I know you're black, but it's like, what do British call themselves? Like black British?
That's the thing. Like we don't really call ourselves. We're just black.
Okay.
Right? But I mean, we don't have a term, African British or British African, or we don't have that term. We're black, or because obviously, like when you say you're African American, you answer two questions in one go. Because even now, I get asked the question, okay, where are you from? Oh, I'm from the UK. Okay, but Osli, what's your origin? Then I've got to say, okay, my parents were actually born in Jamaica.
All right.
So I could say I'm Jamaican British. So when you say you're African American, you're actually answering two questions at the same time. Because if you said I'm American, they say, yeah, but you're American, but where are you originally from? Okay, well, Africa.
Yeah.
That's why you say African American. Us in the UK, we're black. Okay, but all right, we know you're black, but where are your parents from? Oh, my parents are from Jamaica, or my parents are from Africa, or whatever. So that's how it goes. But just to go back to what Omar was saying, it's like the one parent issue or children being brought up in one parent families. I mean, I don't think it's as raw as my brother describes it to be in America as it is in the UK. Like, if what Omar's described the US to me, I'm not saying he said it's a bad place, but it's raw. Yeah, it's not as that. It's bad in the UK because the UK is this big, Europe is this big, and we still have the highest teenage pregnancy rate in Europe. So we're bad. So I think we're broken as well, yeah. And I think what's missing is exactly what Omar was saying: absent mum, absent dad, or even if they're together.
I don't agree with it originating from slavery. I think it originated.
No, I don't.
After when welfare was brought into the United States and the government started being everybody's baby father. Because you had to make a choice between, if I'm going to get on welfare, I can't let him know that my baby dad living here, so or my husband living here, so I gotta lie, or I gotta do this, or I gotta do that. So it destroyed the families. Black people were doing well, and I know this sounds horrible, but during the Jim Crow era, Black families were strong. Like, and
I mean, you had
racism.
You had Black Wall Street and all that. So it's not like you weren't.
It's not like we couldn't have done it. It's just the decision that a lot of people are making and continuously making is a whole bunch of bad and horrible decisions that are going on that are, just keep on going and they keep on going. And then people are bringing it into Islam. And you got the brothers with the 4 wives booked up, everybody on welfare, everybody got Section 8, but he good, that's all that matter. And then you got the good brothers that's struggling and then maybe marrying bad wives who still got a lot of Jeff Liam, and they got they hurting, and it's like a whole bunch of cycles.
Yeah, I mean they're hurting because they're traumatized from something that's happened in their lives, and they don't know any different. So I'm saying. So I think at least with, again, coming back to the main topic of the show, which is Hijrah, but coming out of that environment and actually experiencing and tasting something different. Well, okay, I can, because the pressures of home have now been removed.
Because you're not Black anymore. You're not African American anymore. You're American. You're
Muslim.
You're Britain. You're Muslim. So it's a difference. So you don't have that pressure on you. So I think that it's a freeing topic. It's like when you come and now, like, I've never been in a country that I was the majority. So if I go to Tanzania or wherever country and I'm Black and I'm Muslim, I'm like this, like what happened? So I'm looking as normal. So that's something that is eye-opening as well. But when you come outside of America and outside of outside of Britain, and you're no longer just identified as a color, I think that's something.
It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing feeling. I can't recommend it highly enough. Trust me.
So Omar, how was your experience being an African American and then just being an American? Like how did that come up? Like how did you deal with that?
Um, that's an interesting question, because in well, I can't say so much for Malaysia. Maybe the brother can speak on that, but definitely in Egypt, being an American, um, it gets you
Right?
some some special treatment. It's just to be honest, it gets you some special treatment. Whether you and well, see, here's the thing: white Americans get a different level of treatment,
Yeah, they
but
do.
but at the end, like a lot of brothers can tell you, a lot of people could tell you that at the end of it, being Muslim matters,
Mm.
Mhm.
and then being white Muslim is
They are
is more.
they fetishize over white people. They think
Yeah,
they're
it's because the colonizers were white, the British, French, you know, white folks. So and so they idolize them in a way as being um, more advanced, more intelligent. So, uh, but one thing is for sure, like you can really meet some good people, like and some genuine people, and it eliminates that racism that we face in the states. Like I never experienced that living in Egypt at all. Some can say maybe because maybe I'm a little light skinned, maybe that's it. But then I know brothers that were dark skinned, man. They and the Egyptians loved them. Like when they come in the room, it's like, yo, such and such is here. So I don't know. I don't know. I think it's more or less it comes down to your attitude and how you dealing with people. Uh, that's what's going to make the difference. Your skin color and stuff, it changes because you also have to say, now I'm talking about Egypt now in specific, because Egypt has a range of colors as well. Like somebody's uncle might be dark, and then somebody's grandmother might be light skinned, so they're African at the end. So that if you look at the Nubians down south of Egypt, they're dark skinned, and then as you go up to the north, they become lighter. Like Alexandria and those places, they become lighter. So it's kind of like, and I don't see it as a racism. Some people might argue that and say something, but I think more or less it has to do with you as a human being, as a person. How are you as a person?
I agree.
How's your attitude in dealing with people? And they don't see color at that point.
Yeah, I agree with that because, like, even in the United States, when I was down here, we dealt with a little bit of people, just looking at me crazy because I'm wearing niqab. But at the same time, I still had a bit of the attitude from my Philly days. You had to be a little bit more rougher and tougher, and I was like never naturally rough and tough. I was always a bubbly person, so I had to learn to be. And you know how like how if you know somebody that's gay and they like super gay and they like unnaturally feminine. And I was like, I adapted that a little bit. So I was like, and I had a little bit more of an attitude. But then when I realized somebody brought it to my attention that, I didn't have to be rough. I didn't have to be this, any other, because, it's not who I am. So when I realized that and I realized that everybody wasn't against me, then people's attitudes changed towards me because they were going off my vibes.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand what you're saying. Like, they go off your vibes. If you walking around angry, then you won't be angry. But and at the same token, having a white husband and experience how Arabs are to them, because we have a different experience. So my husband has been my kid's father ever since they were 3 and 4. So that he walks around with these big old African American 13 and 11-year-old, and my boys are husky and they're big. And first he walks in, and then the Arabs are like, "Oh my goodness, this is a white brother. You converted to Islam, and alhamdulillah." And then my boys come following them afterwards, and then they're utterly confused, like, "What's going on?" So
Yeah, yeah.
we have a bit of a difference in how our experience is. So
Mm.
I don't know how it's going to be if we go over. Like, I don't know what to expect. you know, we get a backlash and we get people who praise us. So it's like it's either or. It's
Yeah.
never in between. It's like either.
I would I would say don't let the first thing that come to your mind be racism.
Mm,
That's what I would say. Always uh, kind of make that the last thing, because some people would complain that they had trouble with their children, how their children were treated. Even I can say that too. That uh, one of my one of my sons would come home and wish that he had straight hair or whatever, because they used to treat the Russian kids, the white kids, differently than they treated the African kids. They did do that, and it was more or less like over there. It's more like a preference of what they see as being beautiful than it
Mhm.
is a racism, like you're less than human or something like that, or you're a dog or something, like a American type racism where we're gonna drag you behind a car and lynch you in a tree or something like that. It's
mm,
not like that. You know what I'm saying? It's more or less, if I want to get married, am I going to marry this white woman, or am I going to marry this black woman? And they're probably going to choose a white woman. And again, to me, that's some old uh, from colonialism type stuff. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
white woman is prettier or whatever. And I'm telling you, man, they pick you. You go to the embassy down there, and you find them dudes coming through with some where they find this chick at, like, so they're not even Muslim, like some white. Let me chill out.
no, like I can get because we're related to my husband's sister, my sister in law is
Uh-huh.
married to an Egyptian. I know
Right.
Mhm.
people. I did an interview with a woman who is married to an Egyptian, a white woman. So like, and my sister in law's blue eye, blonde hair, and you know, it's a thing. It's a little bit of a a thing with them. Not Muslim though, like not Muslim. So it's
Yeah.
like you gotta you gotta understand. Is I
But
don't
I'm talking
necessarily
about some.
looking for Muslims. But
I,
go ahead.
I'm talking about. How can I explain? Like, I'm talking about. Let's just say
A 50-year-old woman
like
with a
I don't know
19-year-old
where.
toy boy.
Yeah, like something like that. Like, but it's like I can't explain it, man. It's hard to
Uh,
explain.
People be
But it's
tripping.
something that he didn't choose that. Like he
yeah.
didn't he did that so he can
Please his
travel or
parents.
something like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what that's about. So they'll
I,
pick whatever they can get as long as it's white. So it's
mhm.
it's a strange
Oh
mentality, but they
yeah,
have that.
yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And
So,
just to
but
finish off,
It's what I
before
head.
you look at it as racism, that's what point. Before you see it
mm,
as racism, just kind of step back and think about what else it could be. Did my son throw a rock and break this guy's window? Did what happened? And then
mhm,
at the end say, okay, you picking on him. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Then you can do that. But in the beginning, always kind of see what it is, what the story is, and then as a last resort, it's not racism, by the way. It's just it could be uh,
It's
I don't
cultural
know,
preference, bro.
Culture prep.
preference or something like that.
Yeah,
Cultural preference. It's just like the Pakistanis would. I mean,
would never.
would never marry. Well, will very rarely marry themselves to somebody darker than mine and your complexion, bro. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? If you're not Pakistani, you're not marrying my daughter, bro. Or because they take it to the point where it's tribal. But in general, a Pakistani is not going to marry his daughter to an African or African American, if you like, or whatever, because that's humans are humans everywhere. That's all. That's the only advice I would say to you and your husband, sister. Like
Uh,
Omar saying, it's just cultural preference. There's a little bit of tribalism in there. I mean, I remember this same kind of issue happened between two Egyptians. He was Nubian, and she was light skinned. And the issue why the parents said no to him was because the parents said to the girl, "Our grandchildren will be dark skinned."
Alhamdulillah.
And this is and they're from the same country. They were born in the same country. So it's like
Yeah.
humans are just humans everywhere, sisters.
Yeah, it is what it is. But alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about children and their how they deal with being overseas, how they deal with this culture shock. Um, you said that you had children that came over with you, but I know Hamza kind of came over by himself and then had kids over here.
Mhm.
So Omar, if you can kind of give your insight on how you acclimated your kids into a new environment, like how was that? How was that? How did that work for you?
Right. Yeah, when they came over there, when my children came, they were 3, well, maybe 3, let's say 3, 2, and arm baby. So something like that.
You know somebody named Abdul Muhammad Ameriki or whatever his name is. He said he know you had an Egyptian wife before. You putting your business out there.
Abu Muhammad. Yeah, Abu Muhammad Enrique. Yeah, I know him.
Oh, okay, he letting
Yeah.
everybody know the Egyptian wife. How you
Yeah, I
spell it?
do have an Egyptian wife. I have an Egyptian wife.
Oh, so you got two females. Okay, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, you want me to continue on that?
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
Putting you up. You
Yeah.
for a reason.
Yeah. What were we saying? Okay, with the kids acclimated, getting acclimated. It's hard to say because my children were small. But I do know people that they brought over older children
Mm.
because the little ones are just gonna that's they just see it as being part of their life, and they just you put them in the nurseries and you put them in the different things so they can learn Arabic, and you put them in programs and stuff like that, and that's it. And then in the house you keep your culture in the house. Some people don't, but we do. We keep our culture in the house.
And me
So
what? Me what?
meaning that you're an American, or if you want to say uh, we speak English in the house.
Mm.
We like eating macaroni and cheese. We like, whatever we have from our culture, we keep that. You know what I mean? So if you met any of my children now, you would be like, you wouldn't see, the only difference you would see is that uh, they have natural, how can you say this? It's like they can't stand things that are not Islamic. Like it's hard for them. Like when I took my daughter to the malls in Malaysia, sometimes you take them to the wrong malls, you'll find a lot of short shorts and stuff like that. If you take them to the Chinese malls and stuff like that, so they don't like that, and it's obvious. They're like, can we leave here? And that's the type of stuff that you get. But as far everything else, they speak English and everything else, and then they can also work on talk on the other side, speak Arabic, and they memorize Quran and these type of things. So yeah, it's hard for me to say anything about my children because they came young, and then I had children that were born in Egypt, so they just
How did that work for future parents? What advice, like, because we come in from an American hospital, like I'm used to or accustomed to certain things in American hospitals. Do you feel that there was a difference when your wife gave birth here versus over in Egypt? Was it more dangerous? Did you guys have the money to go to a good hospital?
right,
How did it work?
right. Yeah, it was different. It was definitely different. The hospitals are different. How they operate is a little different. Meaning that, for example, in the States, the husband can be there with the wife when she has the baby in the same room. In Egypt, you have to force your way in there if you want to do that, and you're gonna have a fight if you try to go in there with your wife while she's having a baby. So it's kind of like they consider it like an operation or something. So they take her away and they put her in a room, and you have to wait. That's one thing. Another thing is that the hospital may not be uh, something that you're used to, or the hospital should look like. Sometimes it's like a building and an apartment building, looks like an apartment building, and then inside they have the rooms, and sometimes the rooms look kind of old or something. It depends on the hospital you go to.
Mm.
Then we also dealt with a very modern hospital, but those are much more expensive. So that's another thing. Another thing is the nurses. Like in some of the hospitals, the nurses you have to pay the nurses. Even though they take money from the hospital, they also take money from you. And if you don't pay them, you won't get good treatment. So that's something else you're not used to. People asking you for money. Everybody's asking for money, you know. So you think that you pay the doctor's bill and that's it, but no, you got to pay the nurses and whoever else is there. So
Like your arm gets
um,
chopped off and they like waiting for this money. Like you got one hand, you better stick it in your pocket or you ain't getting this arm put back on.
yeah. See,
Okay.
the thing is, you got to rock with the culture. I mean, you know, you can't go against that, because then you're going to find that your treatment is not good in the hospitals. So you have to be generous. You got to just factor that in. You know, when you're having a baby, you got to factor in. You got to pay some people. So we also had a child there in the house. Like we decided to have a birth in the house.
That's normal
So
though, in the United States to have
yeah,
a home birth, you know, with the tub and stuff like that. Is that looked at as normal overseas? Because that's something that we, especially in the black community, we kind of praise.
it's not normal, no.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's normal, but you can find a midwife there. At the one we had was actually from the UK. The midwife we had was from the UK. So that was like one of the best births.
And
And
what?
then you have to go and register the child and everything else. But
Was it
if you could do that, if a person's not scared to do that, that's probably the best thing you could do, you know, because you're not rushed, you know.
well, if
It's
you
just
have medical issues, you need to make sure you say it. Like make sure you give that information. If you got medical issues, stay with the doctors. But if you feel that your wife is healthy enough to deal with it, yes.
right, right. Yeah, I mean, don't. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not trying to give medical advice. So if a person, you know, if you can do that, then that was the best experience we had personally.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't do that, then you just have to find you can ask around anywhere. I'm talking about Egypt right now, but anywhere you would ask around, get with the expats to ask those type of things, you know, so that you can get the best care. Another thing in Egypt in particular, sometimes people get C-sections and and they don't need to, because
Because
people
they have the opportunity to charge you more for a C-section. So
charge you
you
more
don't need
money.
a C-section. So they think, you know what, I'll get some more money out of this one. So
Yeah. So you got to be careful. You really got to be careful. You gotta get with the people there and they ask questions. They have groups and stuff like that, so you can jump into groups and you can ask questions and, you know, get the information. But definitely don't try to just go in on you by yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you need to get somebody that's been there, done that, you know, to give you some good recommendations.
Sometimes these sisters groups be drawing because we were supposed to go over Egypt maybe a couple years ago, and I was like turned off because the sisters complain. They complain to the point that I'm like, is it really that bad? Like, you know, you can't get pots, you can't get pans, you can't get toilet paper, you can't get nothing good. Everything is low quality in Egypt, and I'm like, how y'all living? Like,
no, everything is there, sister. It's just different. Like if you want to, you know, anything that you want is there. It's just how you get it and how much you pay for it is just different, you know.
yeah.
And I think you know a lot of the complaints that the sisters have are warranted, and a lot ain't, you know. But again, I think that could be based upon the fact maybe in some situations the husband hasn't taken, like he just wants to go full steal. We're making Hijrah fi sabilillah, and we're just doing this, and obviously because his wife is supportive, yeah, we're going to do this. And then in reality checks, it's okay, now we're here. It's like, wow, it's not what I thought it would be. And then, you know, quite rightly, the woman complains. She has a right to. But I think, you know, if there's a little bit more preparation, like Omar was saying, if you ain't prepared to live rough, then take that into consideration. You might go out there with the best intentions, you know, and, you know, you might tell yourself, oh, I can rough it. Only if you've lived rough before, you can make that assumption. Don't, you know, you can't think, okay, well, you know, I can bath out of a bucket. I can wash out of a bucket, cold water at that. And I'm not even using scented soap. I'm using carbolic. I can do that. And then you have to do it. Now you're talking.
See, I'm in reality.